Welcome back to the BAM Becoming a Matrix podcast. I am your host, Nakimera-Mahner. I am a Ugandan American wife, mother, and with a clinical background. It has been a while since I have recorded, so it's nice to be back after Christmas season and being with family and friends, and just starting the new year is usually busy for a lot of us. Anyways, today is a solo podcast, so it's just you and me. I don't have a guest. I am introducing the parenting series. So this will be the first. It's going to be a couple of episodes following this. Many of us, if not all of us, can attest that parenting is one is the hardest and most essential God-given calling for any human being. And as my parents used to tell me, you can only understand this when you become one. It's hard to understand someone until you're in their shoes. So, what does it mean to be a parent? Google defines it well for me. Raising children by providing love, care, support, guidance, and ensuring their safety and well being and development into capable adults. That well rounded definition tells you how important and how much energy it requires to be a parent. The reason I define the parenting is I think the role can be misunderstood, and I think the most misunderstood is the father's role. I don't think it's fully embraced. I acknowledge that we often follow the examples from our childhood homes, from our parents, from guardians, and whoever else we interact with growing up, but especially our parents. And I want to bring in Jeff Cookstone, a psychology professor's suggestion. This is an article titled Fathers and Children Understanding the Misunderstandings. I will have that link in the episode caption. Um, he states, open quotations, we need to raise the bar for fatherhood, adding that if a man is around and is a good provider and does not yell at his kids and goes to soccer games, that may not be enough. It's a challenge to fathers out there. And again, fathers do not have to do this alone. Their wives a good support to be able to see where they can improve. This is why it's so important as a couple, the parents, to have alone time and give each other feedback so that they can help each other improve how they're parenting. That's why, on a little tangent here, it's important to keep dating during marriage. Make it simple, at least weekly. It will preserve your marriage. Again, of course, God is in the center of all. So, continuing on the father's role, so bringing us back to focus, financial provision is a major role for fathers, yes? And in some situations, both parents may have to financially provide, okay? But it's even more important for a father to cultivate an emotional bond with their children and guide their outlook and influence on the world. So, this is why, even though I would say society believes that women can do it all, the reason why the traditional way probably works best for well formed kids is women can have a career as long as it's not interfering with your priority being a parent. Being able to have most of the time with your kids, especially when they're still young, is so crucial because you're able to realize any little thing that's off with them. Again, with the mothers have a special gift of the emotional intelligence to help the kids be able to express themselves. That's the nurturing, being able to pick up on little things when something is off with any child, that nurturing. With fathers, even though a lot of their role is on the outlook on the world, when kids are getting a bit older, then the father is on to help guide them into the world, transitioning into the world, how to deal with the world. And again, that's definitely going to require emotional bonding. When they say feelings are for women or something along those lines, it's not true because we're women and men are both emotional beings. It's just that women, we have more of that gift. It's almost like our primary versus men have it, but for them, it's more the outlook on the world and protecting, providing, and defending. I hope that was clear. So, for example, a man as a provider when you get home. I know you're going to be tired. And the wife is going to be tired as well. So both of you are tired. But it's so important to make some time for your children, however small it is, to show your presence, to even listen to them, however tired you are. It's better to start now than to never try. So do not give up if you're just in a situation where it's just not possible. And again, that's why I'm saying when you do those weekly meetings with your spouse, a lot of things can be possible. If they never talked about, nothing can come to fruition. This comes down to being intentional with your parenting, especially in those first 5 years. I could even say the first 10 years. Those are the years they truly become the person you mold them to be. In my experience, men actually have a gift to be able to put kids to bed faster. They're slower heart rate and a calmer being compared to women. We often have regular hormonal fluctuations on top of sleep deprivation when you have children and the quote unquote scattered brain syndrome. When you're trying to get your rhythm, you're still mastering your parenting, you're mastering your momentum. So all to say, fathers, your presence and your direction with children is key to developing into capable adults. Do not disregard your presence. It's so important. I just think growing up, I've mostly seen women just do everything and dads just provide. And I can't speak for all dads, but very few dads that I saw that were like really involved with their kids. And I know that made a difference, not only for their spouse, but the family as a whole and their relationship with their children. So again, whether you're dating, whether you're newlywed, you're contemplating the future, you're an aspiring parent, trying to start a family, a parent, the beautiful mess of raising kids. This episode is definitely for you. And these are not techniques. I do not have a cheat sheet. I am not perfect. So there is no way I'm going to have it done for you for every child. But there are things that are applicable for all kids that can help your journey of parenting. The first principle, understanding your story through your parents and forefathers. We must discuss the power of our lineage and generational patterns. You are not a blank slate, as I think some of us may have believed some time back. The way you are parented, the lessons, good or bad, absorbed from your home or your guardians, the patterns of behavior from your parents, or even 2 generations preceding them on both sides are very much in line with the kind of person you are. I'm not sure a lot of us think of this. So this is a step-by-step framework you could use. Study your lineage. It's very crucial to look back through your parents' stories, your grandparents, possibly great-grandparents if they're still alive. But you can also learn about your great-grands through your grandparents. But you can use this to bond with them by learning about their lives, their parents, and your parents. And personally, I did not consider this truly until I met my husband, who was by then my boyfriend. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of knowing the history of your family lineage. So with that, you're able to identify the patterns. You need to understand these generational patterns, whether they're positive blueprints you want to replicate or toxic cycles you need to break. And I know that breaking cycles can seem daunting and requires a lot of selflessness, discipline, and self mastery. So, there's a stage that can be really difficult if you're coming from a toxic environment, toxic family. But however hard it is, and it's easy for me to say, it's easier said than done. But oftentimes in our lives, we go through certain things that we cannot truly understand. We don't get to choose our parents. You find yourself in the family. And you can always create a better life. Whatever situation you're born in does not have to define who you are. It could be part of you. It doesn't have to be the whole of you. And it does not have to dictate how you parent. The biggest thing is going to God for direction. Going for adoration is a big one for me. Seeking mentors, people you look up to. For me, it's important that the people I look up to believe in God. And specifically, I would prefer them to be Catholic. We're all part of the body of Christ and we all need each other. The more you can clear out all the baggage, the faster or the lighter you will feel, but also it gives you the chance to move forward so you don't have that on your back. The third thing under foundation is informed decision making. By learning about these histories, we gain a deeper understanding of our parents' journeys, which in turn helps us to truly make informed decisions about the families we want to create. So, when you learn about the history of a family, it gives you a chance to figure out the things you need to totally take out of your life and choose the good that you want to keep using down the line. Whatever you choose is going to be passed down, at least some derivative of it. Try to stay away from judging. It's easy, it's very easy to judge, but as long as you haven't stepped in the shoes of being a parent, you cannot truly understand. And again, the one true judge is God. Lastly, healing and invitation. This is a process where you need to be broken down and built up. And for me, so far, I think women probably go through this at a higher magnitude. God needs to break you down and build you up. He gave you all the resilience you need to be a mother. And it's often hard if you did things a certain way and you realize this is not going to work for the family you intend to create. It can take time. You want to be graceful to yourself, but it's possible. You need a lot of praying and mentorship. That's why it's so important to choose the right partner, someone who can support you through the drastic changes that you go through when you become a wife, and especially when you become a mother. It's a humbling process, but it's so powerful because it helps you become more vulnerable. And that may sound crazy, but the more vulnerable you are, you often want to bring God closer to yourself. And sometimes some people shut down. Um, but I think when you're humbled, you often realize that you don't control everything. God has always been in control. You may just not always realize it. And this is a great opportunity to let God heal your past and present wounds and just encourage you to revisit the foundations, things you have to work through with your family. But at the end of it all, God gives you the gift of grace and you emerge with wisdom. And I can't tell you how instrumental, paramount this can be, not just for you, but society. The second part is foundational principles for a healthy home. Once we understand our story, we build our home on strong, provocative, and godly principles. This is where we can focus on how we interact with our children. Positive discipline and guidance is our first aspect here. It's about alternatives to punishment, focusing on teaching, connection, and communication. You want to set clear boundaries, establish clear, consistent boundaries and expectations so that your kid knows where to stop, especially when they're young, because we're basically their guide. Think of yourself as a campus for your child. They need you for everything. And obviously that changes over time. And I would say that on a practical level, it's not always possible to be consistent, but if you can develop a routine and strive to keep things at the same time every day, it makes your life easier. Well, this may be, for example, one example is every morning you do a certain thing with your kids. For example, prayer, then you shower, make breakfast. By the end of the day, you probably come together again, pray, maybe share what happened throughout your day, and then you go to bed. Those are just a few things you can do. This could be in terms of meals. Fridays we have this, Wednesdays we have this, Mondays. It seems mundane, but it really makes life simple so that you don't have to overthink. It's good once in a while to go out of that routine, but the more consistency you have, the easier your life will be, and it will make for your children as well. Again, this comes through self-mastery and discipline. So you as a parent need to work on discipline. I cannot emphasize this enough because this is something I'm still working on. I mean, I thought I was disciplined as a person until I had baby, and that just changes everything. So consistency is a big one. Teaching life skills Focus on teaching, problem solving, and emotional regulations. These are skills for life. It's not just about compliance, you know? School is important too, like learning your history, knowing how to do some math, arithmetic, reading, and writing are essential. You're going to have to read and write pretty much all your life, okay? But problem solving, I think, and just dealing with your emotions and how you interact with other people is one of the most important things in life. So you need to hone on these skills. So if, for example, you're in the dating phase right now, I would recommend that whatever baggage you have or something that you know is heavy on your heart, please work through it now. It's such an exciting time when you're dating, but a lot of reality hits once you're married. You know, it's a life commitment. This is the person you're going to do life with. And then when kids come in, now you don't have time for yourself, really. I mean, you can have time for yourself, but you don't have the same amount of time you used to have. So kids, a baby doesn't know this and that, or mommy needs this. Once baby's there, they need you, you know, especially in the beginning. So you need to get your stuff in line. When you then involve yourself with another person, it gets tougher. But when kids are there, it's even worse. So work through your problems much as you can now before things get so much more busier. All to say, the discipline starts with you. So the third, under the positive discipline guidance, is use logical consequences. Implementing logical and natural consequences that are directly related to behavior. So, for example, if a child is always on their phone and you decide to ground them, that doesn't make sense, right? Because the problem here is the phone. When you ground them, they still have the phone. You know, this can seem common sense, but I'm sure it's happened. You need to take the problem out of the way. The problem here is the phone. So if you can take that phone away, then the child will get out of their cocoon. And they can learn that it's important to socialize with other people. And this could take time. And sometimes it could take taking away the phone for a very long time. But that's what I'm trying to say here is the consequences need to be logical and solve the problem. And hitting a kid is not always a solution. Spanking doesn't always help. I think there are some extreme situations that you might need to spank a child, but oftentimes hitting a child with whatever you choose to does not solve the problem. So that was discipline and guidance. Now we're moving to the second aspect is a secure attachment. Creating a secure attachment. The goal is a strong, trusting, and responsive bond. That's the goal of attachment you want to create. To be emotionally available is one key thing here. Being present and attuned to your child's emotional needs. I think this is probably one of the most difficult things in our day and age because of you all know what technology, the tools that are around us just snatch all the presents that we can give to our loved ones, which is more important, and we miss out. So a good example can be, for example, when a child is talking to you, you need to make eye contact and listen to them. Matter of fact, this is just any human interaction. Being able to make eye contact and listen and not listen to speak or give your opinion, but listen to the other person with curiosity, helps to communicate to the other person that you care about them and they're seen. Especially kids, they're so young, sensitive, and once they sense that you do not care, first of all, they're going to try to get your attention in sometimes not good ways. It could be distractive, but in the long run, it really deeply affects them. And I can build on that a little later. And as mentioned, mothers have a special gift for the emotional bonding. You just have to lean into it, and sometimes it takes a bit of learning, but you need to be a safe anchor for your child, help build their confidence, and because they're so young, at the end of the day, you need them to know that they can always come back to you. You're their safe haven. Over time, this changes as they grow up. But you want to create an environment or a relationship where a child is always open to talking to you about anything or at any time, you know? And God created you to be a person for that child. to seek your wisdom. So again, your children are a gift to you, and you're a gift to them. So it goes both ways. So again, emotional availability and being a safe base. The third aspect is effective communication of the foundation principles of a healthy home. Third and last, this is about talking with your children, not just talking to them. I think a lot of us, me included, where I have learned to talk to children, and I think I knew a bit of both, but I probably know more to talk to them because they're younger. You often feel like the authority, right? But it's very important to try to level with children. That doesn't mean that you're going to level with their reasoning. That's not possible. But to go down to their level, for example, just like squatting down, make eye contact, and listen attentively to validate their feelings. And it doesn't matter if their reasoning doesn't make sense, it's more about you being present again. And the second part is using I statements. For example, if I need my child to help me with dishes, I'm going to ask, "Hey, Sarah, I need you to help me do those dishes. Could you please?" Or, "I need those dishes cleared or washed. Could you please help me?" Not, "Sarah, you have to do the dishes." Those are two different approaches. One is assertive but respectful. In that way, you're teaching child to be respectful as well. You're modeling healthy communication, so you're going to get it back. Versus commanding, "You must do the dishes." However, I know that at times when it's life, death, or possible injury, you have to command your child for their safety. Okay? That's a different scenario. So knowing when to use what. Cultivating an open environment, create a space where your child feels safe and they can share their thoughts and fears. Again, an open, thriving environment is going to help your kids open up to you. If you never really share your day, if you don't show a sign of opening up or sharing your thoughts with kids, they're probably not going to open up. And that, again, just comes down to making quality time for them and just talking to them. That means you acknowledge their presence. You're connecting, you care that they know what's going on with you as well. Obviously, that's with filter. You don't want to overwhelm kids with your problems. That's another balance, for parents. And I think to some extent it's good for kids to know, some difficulties that happen in life, but you don't want to overburden kids with your adult problems. That usually affects them internally. That's like a psychological thing that happens. When you pour all your problems on a child, it's not good. All right. So that was Foundation Principles for a Healthy Home, Part 3, the parent's role and growth. A family starts with healthy parents, right? If I want to create a healthy family with healthy children, it's not going to be perfect. We all know that. It's going to take me to be one. Self-care and parental modeling. So your self-care is not selfish. It is a vital part of your parenting and you as an individual. But also, we are the temples of God and your person has to be taken care of. This is especially crucial for your spiritual and mental health. So this doesn't mean you're going to go spend all kinds of money to just feel good about yourself. Okay? You can choose one thing that you do that helps you feel calm, helps you relax, helps you stay sane in the middle of the parenting, most when kids are young. Again, you want to demonstrate the behavior you want to see. Okay, monkey see, monkey do. Model regulation. Show your kids how to manage stress and regulate emotions in a healthy way. For example, if there is an intense conversation that went down in the household, try to come back to that when you're more calm. Okay. Trying to solve things when things are really heated often does not bring fruit out of it. It usually makes it worse. So if you can communicate, "Dear husband, I need time," or "Your brother, I need time to kind of come down and we revisit this." Some people can be persistent, but sometimes it's best to walk away because, again, conflict is present in homes, okay? You do not want your kids to constantly see you fighting. That's not good. But at some point in time, I'm sure that kids will see a conflict. But it's not about the conflict, it's how you handle it that's important. So, personally, I think when things are really heated and it's a strong argument, I think you want to keep things more private and not involve too many people. So if it's between you and your spouse, you probably want to handle that when it's one on one. And if you need even someone to just take care of the kids and then you go handle it, probably do that. Sometimes these things just come out right there and then, you know, and it would be great to, can we revisit this at a calmer time or in a more private setting? And if your kids see that, they will imitate. But if they see you blow up every time, they're going to imitate that. So motto regulation. Demonstrate virtue, model integrity, kindness, and respect in your daily interaction. Um, and again, I think this is the best time to see this is in times of conflict when there's something going on that has put you guys on loggerheads, trying to maybe breathe through it and trying to show kindness and not responding with sass, bluntness, rude comments is how you could show kindness. And just, for example, showing respect could be between spouses, it could be children. Like, for example, how I answer my husband or how he answers me shows how he respects me. So if my husband is asking for something and I respond, "What do you want?" That's first not respectful, it's not kind, and oftentimes your kids are going to imitate how you answer, how you act, okay? Because that's their example. Managing your triggers. Recognize and manage your personal triggers or pet peeves and biases so you can respond with intention, not reaction. This, on a human level, can be difficult. It can be learned, though. Again, self mastery. You can learn to keep calm under your triggers. Because I think one thing that helps me keep calm is I ask myself, in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, does this matter? Can I let this go? And sometimes it would require you to just take a walk and breathe. There's a lot of things that could trigger you, especially in your initial parenting years. And I say this is probably more for women. They could be a lot of triggers because your hormones are just fluctuating. You have baby, you have to take care of, you have to deal with your fatigue and healing. And you still have to cook. You have all these things you have to do. This is why we need tribe and a community to really. It takes a village to raise a child. You're not supposed to raise a kid just you and your spouse. That's not how God designed it. Anyway, to bring us back here, using resources right in their neighborhood. Spiritual direction is a big one. You could go for therapy. There usually some resources you could use to just work through your emotions. Again, it's good to acknowledge that these are things that trigger you, and it's good to learn what the root cause is. But the key is to try to find middle ground because it can be perfect. You're two different people coming from different backgrounds coming together, so there's going to be differences. And if you can try to find some balance there, that is golden for marriage as a whole, for your family, for your children. So that was self care. The second and last is adaptability and developmental stages. Parenting is a journey that changes with every season. And we all know this, but until you walk the shoes of being a parent, you just have to learn as you go. Understand milestones. Take time to understand the cognitive and emotional milestones of different ages. It's good to read parenting books, learn from people, take some in-person experience, go nanny. If your friend has a child, go experience, to just understand, see how they interact with their kids in the different stages so that you learn. Shift your role. So as kids grow up, your role shifts, it changes. So it's good to be prepared that your roles are going to vary as the kids grow up. So when they're young, you're more their director. You're their compass, you're their everything, to more a consultant when they're adolescents. And as they get into young adulthood and building their own lives, uh, you kind of, it becomes like a friendship. You become like a mentor. Um, so trusting them with increasing responsibilities that they achieve, uh, and knowing that you have done as much as you possibly could, and total surrender to God. You can control everything. My mom often shares that she just still views me as a child, but she recognizes that some of us are now parents, and she acknowledges how much we've grown, the wisdom we have attained, and she's learning from me. I'm still learning from her because I often go to her for advice. The mental preparation, I think, is different when the reality sets in. But I'm open because I see it as I'm growing, as she's parenting me. I can see it for myself, and I know that you almost have to let go of the rope as the kids get bigger. So that's why it's so important to hone in when the kids are so young, because that time is precious and it goes by so fast. And I know it can be tiring, and sometimes you just want to be on your own. But as they say, you're going to miss those precious young years, especially the toddler years. They're some of the craziest, but some of the most rewarding and most beautiful moments. Um, the fourth part, the family system, and this is the last part for our parenting episode. The family ecosystem, teamwork and support. No family exists in a vacuum. We need a team. I already hinted in this. I say we need a tribe, okay? Wherever you go, like we just moved to Tennessee. We've been here maybe 10 days. Um, and I can already feel like I need to start working on friends. My husband is really good at that. Um, you really need to get your people. You need to get them together, figure out where they all live, try to maybe live within proximity. You know, over time, people can move back and forth. I can't emphasize that enough. You need people. You cannot do life alone. The family unit, defining the roles and responsibilities within your marriage and family structure. So, fostering teamwork. Actually, before I even go into this, me and my husband have written a family constitution. And these are things we're going to implement over time, but the behind the scenes is already in momentum. We often discuss how we want the traditions of our family, how we want our days to look like, um, the kind of things we want our kids to be exposed to. These are things that you really need to start talking about, uh, especially when kids are not there, you know, because then you have time to plan and talk through those things. But you got to keep talking through them, and eventually, as the kids start getting more independent, you can involve them. Honestly, kids can bring great ideas. So the two aspects here under a family unit, the team, foster teamwork, cultivate mutual respect and teamwork among all members, including siblings and parents. It's so important to share the workload, the chores amongst all family members, so that things are manageable and one person is not overwhelmed. That being said, you know, parents are going to hold a lot of the weight, but it's so important. I'm going to say this again. It's so important to teach your children to learn accountability and responsibility when they're young. Teach your kids how to clean after themselves, to wash dishes, to do laundry. Over time, they help you and it gets more manageable. But you're setting them for life. Those are life skills. They're going to need them for life. There's no guarantee that you're going to get married right from home. You might need to live alone. There's no guarantee we, the parents, are going to be here the whole time. So you need to teach your children life skills. Otherwise, it is going to be tough. The adulting transition is going to be rough. Being a united front, because you are co-parenting, you know, I know that it's not always the case. Sometimes a spouse passes. Sometimes you're a single parent, but you need to present, especially whoever you're doing parenting with, you need to be united for your children, in front of your children, for yourselves, despite all the reality of marriage and the struggles. This doesn't mean go pretend like everything is okay, utopia. For example, let me say my husband says something to the family, makes an announcement, and I do not agree with it. I'm not going to express that in front of my children. I will nod along, okay? And sometimes it could be annoying, so you need to, again, learn to control your emotions. And after all that, talk to your husband in private. And if it helps you, please figure out something to help you come down. If it's something that is really frustrating, you might consider taking a walk with your husband. So it's so important to be united as parents. It shows unity. It teaches your children. It gives them an idea of what they want in their own marriages if they choose that path. So the following aspect is building a support network. Okay, so the family team, the family business, working together. You can't just leave all your work for mom or dad. You have to work together. But now on the outside, bigger support system, external support resources are not a sign of failure. They are a sign of wisdom. They are a sign of strength as well. Knowing your limits and really being humble enough to ask, knowing that we are the body of Christ, you need other people to help you keep going is a good thing. So asking for help is a good thing. I want to say that again. Asking for help is part of being a human being. Seek mentorship. This is the first bullet point under support network. Seek wisdom, seek spiritual direction. You probably have parents, seek their advice, seek direction. Over my experience so far, prayer is so powerful. I do understand as well that sometimes you need to share with someone you confide in so that you hear yourself and they can help you understand things better. But I cannot emphasize how much prayer is underestimated. Adoration of Christ is so important. Making time for God and just sharing your troubles often helps a lot. And with this all together, I think the one side tangent I want to add here, even with the support system you have, you want to avoid inputting a lot of people in your marriage. So there's a difference between seeking for help, seeking support, and just sharing everything that goes on between you and your husband to everyone. I think that's a boundary, privacy, line of sacredness of the marriage that you should not break because it usually causes more problems. So, for example, in terms of the support system here for the parents, if it's something more private for your children, you want to pray about it and go to a professional or a spiritual director, a priest, pastor. They can give you feedback in a way that's objective. For things that are more dire, like marriage problems, you don't want to involve the whole community in your marriage. I can recommend the book 3 to Get Married. Your marriage is between you, your spouse, and God. The more people you include in your marriage, the more chaos it's going to create. I want to add here is, for example, if you're having problems, you, the parents, are having problems, you do not want to go tell your parent. So I'm having a problem with my husband. I wouldn't want to involve my mom in it. That puts a conflict between my mother and my husband. You can ask hypothetical situations. The thing is, usually your parents know you so well that they're probably going to read between the lines. So you probably want to go to someone who doesn't know you guys so well, and a religious person is probably best, or a therapist. Your kids can learn that as well because they see what you do. Lastly, utilizing resources. Do not hesitate to utilize church groups, school resources. In conclusion, parenting is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It requires both grace and intention. By acknowledging your generational story and focusing on these foundational principles, from positive guidance to self-care, you are investing in a legacy that honors God and raises resilient, wholehearted children. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to the next episodes with you. And feel free to comment. Feel free to reach out to me through Substack or even Instagram. There's a lot to learn, and I'll see you next time.